That's nasty. All right. All right, guys. So today we're doing a
That
really
took a while.
yeah, we're doing a really fun video. I decided replaying Spider-Man for the PS5 remastered. I want to do a video that is kind of like a challenge to you guys. Also, you can participate in talking about Batman, the video games, and Spider-Man, the video games. And we're really going to focus on the good games of those. So Spider-Man for the PS4 and Spider-Man Miles Morales. And then for Batman, we're going to include Batman, all the Arkham games, including Origins. I only played a little bit. I don't know if you played more than me. But I'm going to include them all. And the reason why I'm excluding other Spider-Man games is, listen, I'm a mega Spider-Man fan. I like Web of Shadows, and Shattered Dimension was a lot of fun. But let's be real. If we're talking about the best Spider-Man games, it is the current two that came out recently. And for Batman, I don't even think we have to talk about why we're only choosing Arkham games.
So sorry, I just want
Yeah.
to speak clear. We're only doing the Insomniac series and the Arkham series. We're not
Correct.
doing any other Spider-Man games and no other Batman games.
Correct. So just the Arkham series for Batman, just the PS4 or PS5 Spider-Man games. And we're going to go through categories for each one and kind of just talk about which one did it better. And it's not to bash either series. I think we both like both series, even though I'm wearing Spider-Man. We both enjoy both these series quite a bit. You've played all three main ones of Batman. I played all three main ones of Batman. We both played Spider-Man, and you played some of Miles Morales, and I played all about Miles Morales. Okay. And so I think the best thing to start off with for these games, and it might be a little unfair because there's only two Spider-Man, three Batman, is story. And
Origins too, if we're talking about the whole series.
Yeah, and Origins. The problem with Origins is I played the game, but I didn't get far enough to tell you if the story was any good. But I did play all the Batman games and recently replayed Arkham Knight recently. You recently played almost all of them again, right? In the last few years.
I got the remastered for Asylum and City. I beat Asylum, I think like last year.
Yeah, I know it was recent. So
Yeah, and I started playing City, but I didn't get very far. But Arkham Knight, I beat again like 2 years ago.
Yeah, so with that, we have a story that is basically a saga. Those three games, Origins is there, but really those three games told one cohesive story. And then Spider-Man really tells a great story in one game. And then Miles also tells his own story really well. I will say for me, in terms of the story, though, if I'm just going to pick one, I think Spider-Man is just a better written story. I'm going to say that because I think that they go a lot into Peter Parker and Miles and give us a character that we're going to love right off the bat, or at least find his story interesting. And one thing I really liked about the Spider-Man games is this is 8 years into Peter Parker's, fighting bad guys. And in Batman, it is, a couple of years in, but he still feels like it's only maybe a couple of years in. Nightwing's around stuff, so maybe 3 years in, but it doesn't feel like he's been doing this for 8 years, where Peter Parker is stated to be doing this, and Miles Morales is also kind of new to it. So you get a kind of origin with Miles and a kind of veteran feel with Spider-Man, and together I think that makes a more compelling story than just Bruce pretty much each game taking place right after each other, right? They're all like a couple of months apart, maybe.
Yeah, and I know City's like what is it? I think it's a year or something after Asylum. Or no, it's not much further. And then Arkham Knight I think is like a year after, something like that.
What is funny is I think the fact that we have three major games for Arkham hurts it, because I think Arkham Knight is the worst story of all these games. I think the problem with Arkham Knight is that they try to be like, well, that's not going to be Red Hood, but it's still Jason Todd. So like, why did you do that? Like
I did like the stuff that they showed with Todd though, like the flashbacks that they showed with Bruce, like basically hearing the Joker and shit, and basically showing that like Todd was tortured and whatnot. Like that stuff I enjoyed, but just overall, like Red Hood as a character in that, I don't think was very well done.
Well, I would agree that I think those moments are cool, except we move so fast past them. Like it just happens. And then we're just like, oh, Harley Quinn is crazy. Let's stop her. Yeah. And I'm just like, I want to feel
Not,
that emotion.
well, not just that too. Like, I feel like the pacing with Red Hood in that story is really poor. Like because
Really poor.
he'll just come in and like fuck shit up and like have some cool scenes, and then he'll just go
Peace.
away for a
Yep.
few hours.
Yeah,
Like
and
it's such an odd pacing, you know. Yeah, and then you're dealing with Harley, then you get like some Joker shit, then you're dealing with other villains, but then he'll just come out of nowhere, and it's a really odd pacing with that story, which I feel is kind of disjointed.
yeah, and I mean, it's not to say that I think Spider-Man is perfect. I think a lot of people feel the MJ sections are or the Miles sections in the first game don't work. I personally like the change of pace, though I feel like they could have improved them in some ways, but I personally like almost the whole story of Spider-Man, and I
It's
think it has the most
really
emotional feel.
fantastic too.
Yeah, and I mean, to me, the fact that you deal with feeling bad for these villains, and we'll get to that next section in a moment, makes the story better. Whereas
Yeah.
Batman, I was beating the fuck out of everybody because everybody's just an over the top comic book villain. So yeah, for me, story wise, it's hands down. Even if I didn't count Miles, which you didn't really get too far when you played it over here, I think that Spider-Man alone is better, but putting Miles' story is just these are better crafted stories, in my opinion, from a big fan of both Spider-Man and Batman.
You said even too that you liked Miles' story more than the original Spider-Man, didn't you?
Yeah,
I
replaying
remember
it
when you beat
now,
it, you said it was incredible.
yeah, it's funny now. I'm replaying Spider-Man. I'm like, man, Spider-Man's story was really good. I still like Miles' story because it's such, to me, it's hard to do an origin story well, but they really nailed it, and it really you feel for the characters. But I'll say one thing in the next section of why I think the original is slightly better in some ways with the story. But yeah, for Batman, I remember moments in the story, but
Yeah.
I would
I
say
think
can you remember like major parts? I remember
I remember
Joker's
some.
death.
I remember some key moments. Yeah, maybe just because I like replayed it recently. Um, I think the part where Bruce gets infected with the Titan venom. Or basically like he gets infected and like he's going to die. Like he's pretty much fucked. I think it's whenever he gets gas or something like that at night. I can't remember which section, but I remember he was having hallucinations with Joker, and I thought that
Oh, the beginning.
yeah, the
Yeah, yeah.
hallucinations with Joker at night, I think, are what make that story entertaining
Hmm.
because I feel like it pushes the story forward more. That was honestly that was the most incentivizing thing for me in that story that kept pushing me forward. Was just seeing like the hallucinations he was having with Joker.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done. And then I would say with City, it was definitely the stuff with Strange. Like I thought Strange was an excellent villain in that. Like I remember when that came out, like I thought the segments was strange. Like he had a lot of good like speeches and monologues that I just
Interesting.
felt like were really powerful. Like if I'm being honest, I probably enjoyed Cities the most. I think Cities probably had the best story for me,
I think
uh,
most would agree with that.
followed by Asylum and then Night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Night had some good sections. Again, I feel like it was disjointed with the Red Hood stuff. I feel like it wasn't as strong as it could have been. If
Yeah.
we're just comparing to like overall quality of writers, I would take Insomniac over Rocksteady any day because those
Yeah.
guys have been going at it a lot longer than Rocksteady has too. Like Rocksteady has probably been around maybe as long as them, if not as long. But I feel like in just terms of overall quality of writing, I think Insomniac, you know,
Is better.
is the better team.
Well, the funny part about I don't know who wrote the Batman games, but the writer of Spider-Man is Christopher Gage, who is a pretty solid comic writer. But he writes Spider-Man, but he never was like a big time Spider-Man writer. And he
Yeah.
nailed Peter. Like he made Peter so relatable and one of the better Peters I've ever seen in any media. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. But so would you also give Spider-Man the better story over
Yeah,
the
100%. Like I just feel like I connected to Spider-Man's story more, and maybe that is just maybe I'm a little biased because again, I love Spider-Man more as a hero than I do Batman. I still love Batman, but if I had to choose one or the other, it would definitely be Spider-Man.
Well, this section now is the most interesting because I feel
Characters,
of all superheroes, I think these two superheroes have the best rogue galleries. Um,
the best what?
rogue galleries. So the bad guys, so they're villains.
Okay, oh, okay.
Yeah. And so for me, there's going to be the Batman games, which obviously there's 3 of them, so there's more villains for Batman, and then there's the Spider-Man villains.
Still had the Sinister Six in one game.
Yeah, and that is what kind of tilts me in the end. But I will say that I think the Batman games did do the villains well. I distinctly remember fights that I will talk more in the boss battle segments, but I think they did them different. Like I felt like Killer Croc was a very different fight than Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn was a different fight than the Joker. Joker different than Bane, and I really like that. And they all had their own unique spin. Well, you know what the thing with Batman villains is they are crafted from usually insanity or something like that. Spider-Man villains are
desperation,
usually,
or sadness,
or
sorrow, I guess is what I meant to say.
And Spider-Man villains to me are more like ambitious. They're very ambitious, and they usually something goes wrong. And you see a lot of the Spider-Man villains as not heroes, but good people before it happens. And in Arkham, you're just thrown into these people are fucking crazy, and you just got to take them out. So for me, I really enjoyed the villains for both. This was a little bit harder. The one, like you said, the big thing that kind of tilted me was the Sinister Six. I think they handled them so good. They were frightening. They beat the living shit out of Peter.
I still remember that scene. Yeah, towards the end of the game.
One of the best scenes in the game. You actually feel for Spider-Man and feel like, damn, he's alone in this and it's going to be bad. So I really enjoyed the villains. And then Miles did it even better, where they introduced villains that have an emotional connection to Miles and make it sad to fight. Like you don't want to fight these people, but you kind of have to. And then they also throw in dumb villains like Rhino and Scorpion because everybody loves to beat the shit out of them. So I think Miles and Spider-Man handled the better of emotional villains and then goofy villains and put them together. Batman, though, does have consistently fun villains, but I feel like I wasn't surprised by any of them. They all acted exactly like how I expected them. Where Spider-Man, what they did with Otto and things like that, and the Tinkerer, and even what's his name? Mr. Net. Well, he was pretty much how I expect. Miles's uncle, Uncle Aaron, the Prowler. So all these villains were really well done, in my opinion. And Shocker's more the goofy, like Rhino, Shocker, Scorpion. Those are the ones I expected to be kind of dumb and over the
fodder. Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a really hard one. This one's the closest, one of my closest ones. But I'm gonna give it to Spider-Man just because I actually felt sad for some of these villains, which sometimes you don't do.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And also too, I think the amount of villains that they put just in that one game, and the overall quality, I feel like to each of them that were all very unique and authentic. How the small Spider-Man comics that I have read, you definitely read a lot more than I have, but I feel like just the amount that they put into the game, and then also just the overall quality of each one, I feel like it's going to put it over the edge for me. Even though I feel like, Batman villains are very iconic and they're all very well done, I feel like all the time. I would just have to say, again, if we're talking about writing, just overall writing, I feel like that the writing for them are better than the Batman villains. Because again, like the Batman villains are somewhat simplistic in that sense. They're not very complex. I mean, Croc just wants to fucking kill Batman
and eat rats.
Yeah, and Freeze just wants to like save Nora. And
I will say Joker would be the one more complex, or even like you said,
Joker definitely got the most attention. Joker definitely got the most attention, and Strange was the star in City. But then again, you look at someone like Jason Todd, and who wasn't done very well. And that's disappointing. It
could have had the emotional connection that you do in the Spider-Man games.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel anything. And that's coming from someone who enjoys the Red Hood stories and stuff. I felt nothing.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem, is it comes down to the writing again. And I think I'm always going to take Insomniac over Rocksteady just in terms of just overall writing quality. But not just that too, like I think that the pacing of the story in Spider-Man is much better. And also, I just like the boss battles more in Spider-Man. Like, I still remember the ending of that game, man, fighting Doc Ock. And was it on top of the Empire State Building?
It was
It was on top of Oscorp or
it was
something, right?
Oscorp, and that actually brings me to my next section, the boss battles.
Yeah.
So we'll just get right into it. So yeah, continue. You were talking
I
about
was
that.
gonna say like that, like just thinking about that, like that fight was incredible. I remember when I first played, I played that on a base PS4 on a 1080p TV, and it was fucking great.
Yep.
Like I can't wait to get my PS5 and go back and replay it,
Yeah,
on my 4K TV.
that fight was not only memorable because it looked great and it was exciting, but you felt the emotion because this whole game you're working with Otto and you see that his work has driven him to this point. And
Yeah.
it's such a nice journey when you get to that point where you have to stop him, but you don't want to in a way. I really,
That after scene, I don't know if we're doing story spoilers, but that after scene after you beat him it was sad.
yeah,
It was
yeah.
really sad.
Yeah, they handled the story very well. And with the boss battles, I do want to say that I think Batman does have some excellent boss battles. This one, if I had to choose just strictly boss battles, I think some of the Batman ones really stuck with me, like Killer Croc. I thought that was a lot of fun in the sewers.
Oh,
in
and
the
Arkham
first game.
Asylum. Fuck yeah, man.
And I'm gonna bring in Origins here. I think the fights with Deathstroke and Origins were fucking fantastic. From what
those
if
were
I
great.
remember anything, I remember those boss battles. I also thought that some of the fights, even in Arkham Knight, were fun with Knight. Going around, kind of had to sneak around, otherwise he'd shoot you. I thought that changed things up. Harley Quinn being crazy bitch, just trying to shoot you and stuff. That was a lot of fun.
I think Bane too has had good fights throughout the
Yeah,
series. As well.
you know, and also they each have kind of a weak one sometimes. I thought the fight in Spider-Man against like rhinos are really simple. Miles did it better, but in the original, whereas
Miles looked a lot better because you're in a mall or some shit.
oh,
right?
it looks fantastic. It's very set piece boss battle, and that works really well, which I'm gonna put in there because set pieces weren't that big back then for Batman, but there's still some. But Spider-Man absolutely has some of the greatest set pieces ever created. I just did that helicopter scene again the other day. I mean that's Uncharted level for me. I mean when you're running through the collapsing building and he just comes out and says, "Oh, I need to catch my flight," like things like that is just it's pure Spider-Man.
Even like the fight with Shocker in the bank. Like even though it was a simple fight, he's just fucking like destroying all the columns and shit. That shit was pretty great.
Yeah, I would say like for
destruction and quality.
Yeah, and you know, with Spider-Man, I feel like some of the boss battles are simple, but made up by the excellent set pieces. Batman, I feel like they try to change it up more, but nothing was on the level of the Doc Ock fight for me. In fact, the Doc Ock fight was better than any Joker fight in the original, and the Joker fights were so exciting. And then you fought like a roid out Joker. That was just the worst.
At the end of Asylum, that was so stupid and funny.
It was so bad.
Because like his nose grows like really long too, and
it was
he gets like a fucking like punk mohawk. It was so dumb.
Yeah, so you know this one's really hard because they each have their pros and cons. I'm gonna go with this one. I'm actually just gonna tie it because I think they both have kind of the pros and the cons for me. In terms of set pieces, Spider-Man's way better, but in terms of diversity, I think Batman tried more. It also had 3 games where Spider-Man just had 2 so far, but just because of Origins and those excellent Deathstroke battles, I'm gonna have to just kind of tie this one. I can't just simply give it to Spider-Man for this one.
I think that's fair. I think I would agree. Yeah, I don't want to just we haven't given anything. I feel like to Batman so far as 1+, but I would say it's fair to tie them because in terms of just boss battles in general, I think most series have been like fun and diverse and unique and interesting. Like I feel like none of them feel boring.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say any boring ones.
Yeah, so I would say it's a tie too because like even though Spider-Man just had 1 game, I love the boss battles and that, but I can't discredit like the boss battles in the Arkham series because I feel like they've all been pretty great.
Yeah, and I think the big thing in the next section we're going to talk about is the controls, the fighting, and the traversal. Am I saying that right? Traversal. There we go. Now with Batman, even the very first game, it was nearly not as open world, but you still can travel around Arkham Asylum, and so there was some kind of hub world thing going on.
That's when they introduced like the grappling hook with the gargoyles and stuff. I mean, that stealth system was pretty revolutionary for its time.
And that's what I want to talk about. If we're talking about fighting, both these games are broken into two sections, stealth and combat. For controls purely, I feel like Arkham series does make you feel like Batman, but also Batman's a grounded character. They're kind of easy to do that in a video game. Spider-Man, very hard to have good controls in a Spider-Man game, obviously, because it took fucking 1,500 games to get here. But my God, there is no game that makes you feel more like Spider-Man than this.
There's competition here.
Yeah, the controls are near perfection for Spider-Man. I say that with my full chest out. This is near perfection controls. It's smooth as butter and it just flows so nice. I would say Batman's good too, but there's definitely some stiffness to Batman at times, especially walking around.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you're just looking at the combat in general, I think the mobility that Spider-Man has in his game, as opposed to like the Arkham series, like I feel like it's unmatched because I don't know if you noticed too when you would play the Arkham games, if you weren't close enough to an enemy and like you would try to punch him,
he fly.
Like, he would just do like this little like fucking like stance thing, like where you couldn't hit him if you were close enough, and it would just kind of break the flow. Like like the whole thing, that's what they based that whole system off of, is like free flow combat, bouncing back and forth, keep that combo meter up and going. With Spider-Man, I feel like you just have a lot more tools, because you are able to web zip to enemies, you are able to grab shit and throw it. Like, with Batman, he has his gadgets and whatnot, but even still, like his evading just feels very, like slow. It almost feels like a Dark Souls roll. Like, I just feel like if we're just talking about responsiveness and fluidity in combat, I think it has to go to Spider-Man. But I also have to say too, if it wasn't for Arkham's combat,
that's what I was going to say.
Have the combat that we have in Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree. That's the big thing where it's like, without Arkham, there is no Spider-Man. It's very similar combat, but at the same time, just like anything else, things can improve. And I think Spider-Man's speed and everything makes it more fun for me anyway.
I agree.
And I think it's a harder challenge to make a good Spider-Man game than is a Batman game, in my opinion. One thing you mentioned I find funny is, yes, Batman does have gadgets. That's cool. I think the gadgets are more fun to use in Spider-Man than they are in fucking Arkham series. I hardly ever use the gadgets. Now, I will say one thing I really enjoy is I like Spider-Man's combat a lot. I think the finishers are fantastic and very cinematic. One thing I really liked about Batman, though, was the counter system felt very brutal. And you actually felt like I felt the crunches.
Yeah, that's one thing they did great with Batman is they made the brutality, feel like true brutality.
Yeah, and it's
there was no blood. Any of the games.
Well, yeah, and he cracked someone's head open with a pipe, but they're just like, nah, he'll be all right. He'll come back tomorrow.
Traversal.
Yes. Going around the city as Spider-Man to me is the best open world ever for traveling. They have a fast track system or fast travel. I hardly ever used it because it is so much fun just to swing around the city as Spider-Man. I use a little bit of Miles, but that's just because I played like 30 hours of Spider-Man at that point, but it is awesome. It is just so fun to go around the city. It's weird because Gotham is such a unique city, and it is frightening to travel around a drug crime-ridden city, but Spider-Man is so beautiful to travel around New York City, and it's the actual traveling that's fun. I am not a huge fan of traveling around the city in Arkham City. That was my one drawback for it. But it got worse with Arkham Knight with that fucking Batmobile.
See, I would actually disagree with you there. I actually really enjoyed traveling around the city in Arkham Knight because it was a big city, and I actually enjoyed like just I know you didn't like the Batmobile stuff. I personally did. I thought it was done pretty well as they could do it. I don't think the battle segments with it were that great.
Not that great. They were some of the worst fucking battle segments in a vehicle.
I didn't hate them as much as you. I mean, like as far as like how they controlled it was fine. I didn't have too much issues. I just felt like they were boring. Like especially that fucking fight with Red Hood, I thought sucked.
Yeah, it was like fucking playing Twisted Metal if Twisted Metal was fucking a piece of shit. Yeah, it was. Oh god, literally what takes it down for me is the fucking Batmobile, especially the combat, which I'm going to add in at the end here just because it is part of the combat. but terrible. But yeah, just the traveling in general,
Not great.
it's cool as Batman to go on a bridge with the grappling hook and glide down like a little
Yeah,
bat.
it's also a lot fucking slower though. And like with
Way slower.
Spider-Man, I feel like I'm moving so quick in Spider-Man. You have the tricks you can do in the air and shit. The music notes that they have while you're swinging, I think, are fantastic. It just feels very immersive. It feels fun. It doesn't. I feel like I never got frustrated with it.
Yeah.
Whereas with Batman, I feel like I would have so many sections where I'm like, oh, I'm fucking losing glide. I'm fucking losing air here. I gotta like dive back down and pull myself back up so I can keep gliding.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like with Batman, it was a little bit more frustrating than it needed to be.
It didn't flow as well.
Yeah, it didn't flow as well. And I get it. Like Bruce can't fucking shoot webs from his hands, but nonetheless, I feel like it's just a lot more fun to do in Spider-Man. Like I actually genuinely just enjoyed swinging through NYC, whereas with Gotham, sometimes it felt like a chore to fucking get around.
I agree. Well,
as much as I did enjoy it, most of the time, there was so many times where I'm just like, yeah, I wish I could just fast travel here.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing is like after a while, Batman, I wish we could fast travel. And
Yeah,
Spider-Man,
I don't think it had fast travel.
I don't remember it having fast travel. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong too, yeah. But
I don't remember. And the reason why I don't remember is because I didn't really like traveling around the city. And I remember distinctly having to go around that city. So I would give that to Spider-Man in the end.
100%. I agree.
Yeah, it just has more pros. I do think the fighting in Arkham is still fun, but Spider-Man, just in terms of general controls, non-Batmobile combat, and the traveling, it is the better of the two.
I think authenticity too to how each character controls. I think I would definitely give it to Spider-Man because like you said, I feel like there's too much stiffness with Batman.
Well, what the weird part is when you play as Batman and then you play as Nightwing and then you play as Robin, yeah, they all are slightly different, but they all feel the same. Like they never felt different. Whereas Miles, you played a little bit, he feels different. He feels faster. He feels more like going stealth and then doing the Venom punch. Very feels his own style versus Peter. He can take a lot more damage, but he's not quite as fast. And then he can't do those Venom attacks. So
I noticed that immediately when I started playing it. I'm like, he's faster. Like he doesn't hit as hard as Peter and he has less health, but he's fucking quick as shit. And that Venom punch, man, when I first did that, like
so cool.
God, the effects on it, they're just beautiful.
Yeah, like, I think it's a great game too to showcase the.
That's why I can't wait to play it.
Yeah.
Power of the PS5, yeah.
Which brings me to my next section, and this one's a lot of fun because this is more just personal opinion, graphics and design. So these are two very different style games. As someone who's read a lot of comics, these definitely feel different than the comics in both respects. I'm gonna let you go first because I'm more eager to hear what you say because I've read so many comics. I'd rather hear a fresh opinion. Arkham and Spider-Man, which designs for the characters and the villains, or which one kind of felt like for you? What did you enjoy more visually?
That's hard to say because I feel like the Arkham series nails the look of Batman pretty well. I think for the villains as well. Like I actually really love, as you know, I'm a big Killer Croc fan. He's one of my favorite Batman villains. If not my favorite. I feel like his design was nailed pretty well in that series, and I actually really liked his look the most in Arkham Knight. Like they gave him more fucking spikes. Like they made him fucking bigger. Like I still remember too the first time I played Arkham Asylum, and you're walking into the asylum escorting Joker, and like you see Croc getting fucking pulled out by like 11, 12 dudes, and he's got the shock collar on, and they're prodding his ass, and he's like, what the fuck did he say? He's like, I got my eyes on you, Batman. Like I'm gonna get you tonight or some shit. I was like, oh shit. Like I remember playing that, fucking shivers with just shit sent down my spine, man.
Yeah.
Like I just remember those little moments in the series that were just really iconic for me. So I feel like the Arkham series nails the look of Batman pretty well. I feel like if we're talking about overall fidelity, I have to give it to Spider-Man because when you're comparing just a PS4 exclusive to a multi-platform game, like I'm sorry, so people can call me a fanboy if they want. I honestly don't give a shit, but you can't compete with the power that Sony has with their exclusives and the fidelity that they've showcased for the past
the cinematic feel.
14, 15 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's just I feel like it's unparalleled.
Yeah,
Like
and I
it's
put these
uncomparable.
I put these two together because of that. Because obviously, it's the Spider-Man's a newer game. It looks better, but the
Absolutely.
design really can change for what they like. Do you like Gotham better than New
Yeah, because
York?
that's completely subjective.
Yeah. Do
Yeah.
you like Batman looking better than Spider-Man? So for me, as a huge comic fan, it is really hard for me sometimes to just kind of like ignore the designs of things. Uh, and I really like some of Batman's designs in here. Like you mentioned, I think Killer Croc looks really cool. I think Harley Quinn is hot as fuck. I think I really like actually the designs for
No.
uh Nightwing and stuff. I think those are all great. Robin looks like an idiot bald. I will say and I like Arkham Knight.
What are you trying to say? Huh?
I think
Idiot
Batman
bald?
looks kind of stupid. I think he looks dumb because his whole suit is like mechanical.
I think I actually liked his suit a lot in Night. I wasn't the biggest fan of his suit in Asylum, and I thought Cities was okay.
Yeah, see, for me, I think is my biggest issue is that he feels like almost a robot in Arkham Knight. Like it's like,
He's tech.
yeah, and it's not, I think Batman does do tech suits sometimes, but for the most part, he is very spandex. Spider-Man was just like, that's what we're gonna do, and pretty much you can get 20, no, that's more than that,
Yeah,
45
they
fucking
found the
costumes.
fucking suits.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous, and I
Yeah, I
gotta
don't think he
say,
can compete. Yeah.
yeah, that's my biggest thing is Batman. You get a couple of costumes, but they all pretty much look similar. Spider-Man,
Yeah, they put them somewhere.
very,
Yeah.
you're going around with a fucking paper bag and a costume for Spider-Man. Then you got the really original homecoming suit. Then you have the original Spider-Man suit from the comics. You have the new suit, which I think is fantastic
Infinity
design.
War suit. Yeah.
Yeah, the Infinity War, and then you also you haven't even seen the newest ones that just came out. Well, you probably seen them, but
I've
playing
seen.
as them, oh man, the new suit from the No Way Home looks amazing. So just the design itself, I think Spider-Man has some of the best designs. I will say the
Yeah.
original Spider-Man is not as great as I hope for some designs, but I'd say Miles really improved. I think the Prowler looks amazing, and Tinkerer suit is really cool modernization of that character. So as far as designs for the villains, I think they're about even for me. Some goofy ones, some great ones, but Spider-Man's design is fantastic, and all the costumes are so much love to the fan base. And you know what's crazy about this? I actually learned this the other day. Insomniac did not want to make a Spider-Man game. They didn't want to make any superhero game. They only wanted to make their own original IPs. And Sony's like, listen, you can create any Marvel character you want. And they're like, the president of Insomniac's like, no, we don't want to do that. And then he's like, wait, maybe Spider-Man. And then they made Spider-Man, and it's fantastic. Probably their highest rated game, or one of their highest rated games. But yeah, I think this is a love letter to Spider-Man fans. I think Batman is more original and has tried to do something different. But for me, as a fan of the comics, I think just Spider-Man looks better, in my opinion, for the design. So I'm getting a slight edge to Spider-Man because I think Spider-Man is better designed than Batman.
My ears are vibrating.
I was getting a call.
No, I'm inclined to agree with you again. Like, if we're just talking about overall design with suits and just the overall look, I mean, I'd have to give it Spider-Man. And what's great about Spider-Man too is all of those suits are fully animated in the cutscenes.
Yep, I love that. Love that.
Which is incredible. Like that's something that's a lot of work that it takes to do, and I think the fact that they did that, it just makes it that much better. Not just that, like the lighting in Spider-Man is so great. Like I would remember putting on, the fucking Iron Spider suit and like going and sitting at the top of fucking Oscorp at night, like in the rain, and just seeing the lights on it on his fucking eye, the his eyes, like on his mask, and then just like the lights on his back. It just looks so pretty. It just looks so nice.
Yeah.
I just feel like that. Yeah, I'd have to give the edge to Spider-Man in that sense, because again, maybe there's a lot of bias here, but I just feel like the overall fidelity and look and design of Spider-Man, I would have to give it to. But again, that's not negating like what I feel like Arkham did as a series. I feel like they generally nailed the look. I feel like of Batman's look as well as the villains, as well as the darkness that Gotham was like.
Yeah, Gotham's definitely their plus. Gotham looks
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, and like I feel like that's something that they designed pretty well. Like especially when you're flying over the entire city.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that looks really nice. It looks beautiful. Like the design of that is really impressive. And just to get all the fucking radio comms coming in, some motherfuckers trying to mug some other motherfucker over here. Like
yeah.
I feel like all of that was done really well and it looked really nice. What's cool about Arkham Knight too is you kind of would be able to go through the story at your own pace, because there was a lot of side missions, a lot of different things to do. You could do those shitty fucking Riddler challenges if you wanted to.
Oh, wait. Don't go too far because that's my next section.
Oh, collectibles, yeah, I know. But no, there was a lot to do in Arkham Knight, and I feel like just having all those options while exploring that pretty beautiful city. I think it's something I enjoyed, but I would say if I had to give an edge, it would probably be Spider-Man as well for me.
Yeah, and going into our last two, I do want to talk about side content and collectibles.
Where are
They
my arms?
yummy. They both they both have a lot of it. But I dig Arkham Asylum not as much, but definitely Arkham City and definitely Arkham Knight and definitely Spider-Man Miles. This is one of the hardest ones for me too, because I actually do like collecting stuff in Spider-Man, but it mainly relates to the fun travel system.
I platinumed it on PS4.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. I think collecting the pigeons is cool. I think doing the challenges, the takedowns are my favorite, like the base takedowns and stuff. And the side content, Spider-Man, usually they're pretty funny. I like the Taskmaster one a lot. Like those side missions are cool. I will say though, for me, Batman does take this one. I think Batman's collectibles are cool, but the thing that I distinctly remember are the side missions in Batman. Some of them better than the story missions. A lot of them were like murder mystery type feel, like you had to find clues and stuff. Finally, Detective Batman. I was waiting for that.
Yeah, that's something we didn't talk about yet. The detective mode stuff.
Well, that's going to go into the very last section for me, which is level design. But I really enjoyed the side content in these. Some of them were really good. Hunting down, I think Calendar Man is in here, which I was like, oh god, he's going to be goofy. No, it was great. Like when you had to find out what he's killing, he would leave like dead bodies hanging. I was like, what the fuck?
And to solve those mysteries too, you could only come back on the days that he was talking about,
which is awesome.
So a lot of those you could only come back on like Christmas Eve or like Christmas Day, which I thought was really cool.
And you didn't have to do them, which is awesome. So you could just skip them, but they were so good that I wanted to do them. There were side missions in Arkham Knight that I thought were better than the main game, stuff with like Nightwing and stuff. Those were my favorite parts of the game. So for me, this one, as I like both of them in the collectibles, I probably like collectibles a little bit more in Spider-Man because you get new suits. But as far as side missions, I think the Arkham series is the better of the two.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah. I think the overall amount of collectibles and just like you said, like side missions in general, just side content, I feel like Batman's packed with it a little bit more.
Even if I take out Night, I think City is really the one that introduced great side missions. So even if we're just comparing two games, I like Miles' side missions more too than the PS4 Spider-Man, but I still remember Arkham City side missions like they were yesterday. Like they were that good.
Yeah, well, not just that too. Like Arkham Knight had DLC. They had an expansion with Killer Croc. I think it was Killer Croc, Freeze, and some other villain. I think it was maybe Harley Quinn. Yeah, they had like a whole other expansion where they each had like their own like little mini stories that were maybe like an hour or two each.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I played those, and those were pretty good. Yeah, I would say if we're just talking about overall side content, I think I'd go with the Batman as well, just because there's a lot more in it, and I feel like that's all written pretty well. And again, like the side content is still there in Spider-Man, but the side content is like, you remember the side missions. Go talk to this chick.
Or this woman's looking at a bird. Oh, there's bad guys. And
and like take this picture,
I hate those goddamn pictures sometimes. I will say there's some cool ones. I really did like Taskmaster side missions, and I liked what's his name? Tombstone. So those were cool side missions for sure.
Yeah, but even so, like the expansions for Spider-Man were not great. I think they were fine, but I
I
don't
never
think
played them. This will be my first time.
I played them all. I played them all. They were all they were all good. I don't think any of them were great.
But just
Uh,
good.
yeah, like they were just like the stuff with Silver Sable was pretty good. I thought the stuff with Tombstone was cool, but um, I would probably say. By the way, there's a section with Black Cat in the Black Cat one where if you get seen, it's
game
you
over.
fail.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you're going to really enjoy that one. I failed that one probably 5 or 6 times before I got it, but
Well, funny
that
you say that because that's actually what I'm going to bring up in level design, which is our final section. And when I'm talking about level design, both games are out. They have a big world to explore, but they also do missions indoors too. And for me, I think Spider-Man does it really well outdoors. Indoors, not so much, and that's just because of the hyper,
I agree.
speed of Spider-Man.
Enough space.
Yeah. And I also think just Batman in general broke off sections better. They had the combat, boom, boom, kick punch, and then right into stealth. And like it just flowed. Boom, boom, kick punch. And then stealth came up and it's just like, well, we're just gonna sneak up on motherfuckers and choke them out. Like all that
That
stuff.
stuff was great, but I feel like there wasn't enough options as you had in Batman.
Oh, you're talking about yeah, I agree. I think
Talking about
Batman stealth
yeah.
sections is better. And I think it mainly comes down to they're both very similar stealth. I just think that Batman's level designs indoors is better. It's structured to use the environment to your advantage. Spider-Man, you basically just stand on the fucking top of the ceiling and soup, soup, that's all you do.
You can use the gadgets like here and there, but
Yeah, and it did become better.
Part,
But that's halfway through the game. Right away, Batman, they're like, here's a room. You got some ducks. You can blow up this wall to distract them or knock them out. Go. And that was like the first stealth mission. I'm like, oh shit, I can do different things. Spider-Man, you can't use all those gadgets till about halfway through the game. So for me, I think level design purely for the indoors, I'm giving it to Batman. If we're talking about outdoors, Spider-Man uses an advantage with the better combat, but they're about even for level designs outdoors in terms of main missions and stuff. But yeah, indoors, hands down, Batman to me has the better level design and better stealth, which makes it a better level design indoors for the missions.
Yeah, I would say if we're just talking about outdoor level design, I definitely give it to Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But definitely when it comes, I would say combat, I would give it to Spider-Man. I would say stealth, I would give it to Batman.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair.
Like
you're
because with
breaking
Batman,
up.
you have a lot more. I'm breaking up again.
Yeah.
Oh no, not again.
We're so close.
Am I still breaking up?
No, you're good now.
I'm okay.
I hear you.
Okay. Yeah, with Batman, I feel like, I mean, he is a stealthy, hero as well. I mean, he's a hero, lives in the shadows. So you just have a lot more options and gadgets at your disposal when it comes to stealth.
Yeah.
Not just that, the stealth was just a lot of fun. Like
Yeah.
I just remember like what's great about the stealth in Batman 2 is you could just fuck with motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They'll get scared and they'll start fucking shooting the air.
Who's that?
Battering behind them and they'll go,
ah! I love that shit.
Yeah, like it was really fun to just fuck with the guys in that.
Or put the fucking gel on the wall and be like, oh, what's that? And boom,
yeah, like you had the explosive gel, you'd be able to take them down through fucking ceilings and through walls and through grates. Like there was just a lot more options when it came to stealth than with Spider-Man. I will say though, like the stealth takedowns in Spider-Man are pretty great. I still think my favorite one is whenever fucking Peter like whips him up and then fucking like he whips him by the fucking head and then bangs his head on the fucking panel.
And he's like, yeah, he'll be okay. I'm like, no, you just killed that
fucking out, like cocoons him. Yeah, I would say the stealth takedowns I like more in Spider-Man, but if we're just talking about overall more options and just what stealth is more satisfying, it's definitely Batman. Because like that to me is the true Batman experience when you're, fucking taking out a room of like 10, 12 armed motherfuckers and take them out without even getting seen.
Yeah, or mix it up. I think Batman, it's kind of cool to take out 4 or 5 guys and pop out of the vent and just take out 4 people before they even react. Do that bam, bam, bam. And, Spider-Man, it's cool, but that's what you're doing.
Very simple. It's very simple. The stealth's very
You're
simple.
webbing them up. So very different feels. I just think I give the slight edge to Batman for the overall level designs because they do have some fantastic level designs indoor. But yeah, so that sums it up. I think overall, though, I'm going to give the edge to Spider-Man. I think it's a better built series, and it's still innovating. And I think with this new one coming out, we might get some co-op, or if not co-op, we're going to get a lot of combat back and forth between Miles and Peter that can spice up the gameplay.
I would love to see Venom gameplay.
Yeah, or if we don't get Venom
Venom gameplay would be like.
Well, my biggest thing is, say we don't get Venom, I'm okay with that, but we're obviously going to get the symbiote. What are they going to do to make that feel different than Spider-Man? You know, they did it in Web of Shadows, and they did it in Spider-Man 3 being fucking terrible. But with Web of Shadows, you definitely felt the difference. Like you're punching, you turn the symbiote, you just like boom, and the fucking car explodes. I was just like, what? So I want to know how
Shadows is good.
Different. Yeah, Web of Shadows was fun. I mean, it's
really
very
good. Web of Shadows,
heavily flawed. Like if you watch it now, the combat's really cool, especially aerial battles. But like you look at fucking thing where you punch them and the car goes, and it's just like we just ignored that. And the voice acting was atrocious for Peter, like one of the worst voice actors. You know what happened? They picked that guy because he won a fucking competition. I'm like, why would you do
really?
That? Yeah, it was just a random fucking fan. Like, what?
That's pretty great. I like that a lot.
No, I don't like that.
I think that's great. No, I love that. I think it's fucking great that they fucking had their voice actor be a guy who won a competition.
Go watch that fucking clip and be like, oh my God, this voice acting. Okay, but
if I could just say, I think it would be really cool if Insomniac did a Last of Us Part 2 thing with Spider-Man 2. Where you're going back and forth between playing Peter and Eddie. I'm sorry, excuse me, Harry.
Oh, so like an Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think that would be fucking great.
I just can't imagine they're gonna let you play as Venom. Like, I'm all for it. If they
I won't be surprised if they won't, but I think that would be just really cool to just.
I would love that.
Yeah, shit. Like I would just love to see how they do Venom combat.
Yeah, and you know, with that, I think. So that's a big thing. When I finished City, I enjoyed it, but I didn't like feel eager for the next one. Like I like Joker dying and stuff. And then Arkham Knight came. I was like, with Spider-Man, one was great. Miles was great too. And then that fucking cliffhanger with Harry being Venom. I mean, this shit is like, guys, I read a lot of Spider-Man comics. That shit took me by surprise where I was like, what?
Well, because this never happened in the comics, right?
As far as I know, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Spider-Man fans, I have never seen fucking Harry as Venom. And to bring him in as Venom and then have fucking Craven coming in, we're talking about like Craven, the guy who buried
Craven's going to be it too?
Yeah, he's the main villain. He's the one who's talking. Have you seen the trailer yet?
Did they show it at the Game Awards?
I don't know if it's the Game Awards. I think it was at the E3 or one of Sony's things. But my God, dude, when Craven's just like talking and he's just like talking about hunting the spider and shit, I was like, yo, we're bringing the guy who buried Spider-Man alive. So this to me is why I think Spider-Man's a stronger series. It gets me excited right after.
It's a better developer too.
Yeah.
Like if I'm just being honest, like what the fuck else has Rocksteady made?
Well, that's the thing. Rocksteady, I think I like the direction they're going in now where they're doing the Suicide Squad versus Justice League. That looks fantastic and fun as shit.
Cool. It does look cool.
So I'm more excited for them doing that than another Batman series. I am excited for Gotham Knight. I think that pushing it back will help, tune it up. It looks like it needed a little bit of that. But a co-op
they're doing Gotham Knight?
No, they're not. I'm just saying that I like that they're continuing the Arkham style, but I'm glad that it's not Rocksteady. I think Rocksteady hit I
think they've done all they could.
Yeah, and they're just like, yeah, let's move on. And I think they'll have more fun with Justice League. But for me, right now, I think Spider-Man is the better superhero series. If I were to rate both series, I'd probably rate Arkham as a whole. Even with the Knight not being great, it's not a terrible game. I'd still give it I think I gave it like a 9 out of 10, but I really would replaying it. I'd probably give it like a 7.5 because I think the core combat's great still. So overall, I give like that series an 8 out of 10. But for Spider-Man, I'm not joking. When I would give that series a 9 out of 10, sometimes a 9.5 when I'm really feeling happy because this series has brought nothing but happiness to me as a big Spider-Man fan. So yeah, overall, I think I'm gonna give it to Spider-Man as the best superhero series out there for games.
I would agree. I think Spider-Man and just a little bit I played of Miles. I think those are the two best superhero games I've ever played. And honestly, I'm really excited for that fucking Wolverine game. Is Insomniac doing that too, or no? I can't remember.
Insomniac is doing that, and they haven't
And Spider-Man
completely
2.
confirmed it. Yeah, they're also doing Spider-Man 2. They haven't completely confirmed Wolverine, but they have said it is going to be more in the mature section. So I'm expecting that rated
Yeah,
R, because I
definitely.
like Wolverine Origins, the game. I think that game is still fucking fun as hell.
That's still one of the best movie games. That game
That is
still holds
the
the
best
title
movie
of a
game.
game that's better than the movie.
Oh, it's there's not even a fucking competition. Like Wolverine Origins is top 10 worst superhero movies, but the game
Top
is
10
the
worst, best
game.
superhero games.
Yeah, it really is. When you fucking tear people up like that, blood just oh, I love that game. But yes, I'm very excited. Oh yes.
I agree. I want to say one thing before we go, and this is I still don't know if we're ever going to get a fantastically crafted and well-made Superman game.
We can only fucking
And that
hope.
really disappoints me because what was the last Superman game? Was it Superman Returns, the movie game for fucking 360 15 years ago?
You know what I'll say about that game? I enjoyed the flying.
I enjoyed
it.
Yeah, like I enjoyed it when I played it at the time. But again, that was like, what else was there to compare it to?
I don't know why we haven't gotten one.
That's what I'm saying, man. Like, and Rocksteady was talking about that for years. That
I would have loved that.
They wanted to do a Superman game, but I agree with you. I think the Suicide Squad game looks cool, but if I'm being honest, I don't care that much about Suicide Squad. I would much rather have a fantastic Superman game.
Yeah, I mean, well, the thing with Suicide Squad is, I know you didn't love Guardians as much as me, but kind of taking the lower end spectrum of heroes gives them more opportunity to do crazy shit, like killing the Flash, killing Superman, like doing things like that. You know, even in comics.
I know Superman's going to be in the Suicide Squad. Like, they showed him, but man, like, that's something I would fucking kill for. Like,
I agree. I would
get
love
a fantastic developer to do a fucking great Superman game.
Mm-hmm. I would love a good Superman game. My top 3 superhero games are Superman for sure. Green Arrow. I mean, how the fuck have we not? We have so many fucking characters with bows. Great. Why don't we have fucking Green Arrow?
We got Kate Bishop and Hawkeye in the
come on. And that game sucks. No, it's just it's a shame.
Right. It does suck.
Well, you know, I don't, because I want an actual like bow and arrow feel to, you know, a game. So I think Green Arrow would be cool. And then, you know, I mean, I always want a Daredevil game. But yeah, I was gonna say the Flash. Flash would be cool because you can do a lot of really cool things with speed. Make it like Sonic, but not shit, and we can have a really fun game.
Make it like Sonic the 6.
Yeah, or you know what? You know, if we want to bring back some stuff, I mean, I liked Ultimate Alliance 3, but I would like a new X-Men Legends. Like, let's bring that shit back, dude. That game was fun as fuck. Okay, but let's wrap it up. So would you say Spider-Man is a better series?
Oh yeah, 100%. If I had to rate Arkham as a series, I would say it's somewhere between 7 and 8 to me. I can't really say for sure which. I don't know. I think I would say 8. I think it's fair to give it an 8. And I would say Spider-Man's definitely a 9 for me.
Yeah, Spider-Man.
I think because if we're just talking about like overall quality, like it definitely has to be 9. Yeah. Like Spider-Man. My dad's fucking going at my door. I'm wrapping up here.
Oh, y'all doing a video?
Yeah, I told you that. I texted you that.
Oh, you want to go to the farm with me?
Yeah, I'll head out with you. Give me a few minutes. My father, who's been staying with us, and then we'll be leaving on Saturday. Anyways, yeah, this was fun.
Yes. All right. So you guys check out this video. If you have a vote here of these two, let us know which one you like more. And even more, if you have a fucking superhero game where you're just like, it's better than both of these, put them below, because I would be really interested to know which one you could possibly pick. But yes, I hope you guys enjoy and have a great day.
Spidey Dick out. Spidey Dick's a Heat fan.
Why do you love Dick so much?